Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to talk about cash flow. We're going to talk about multifamily property syndication, operations, all sorts of cool stuff. Man, you would think that I don't even do this as a living talking because I'm jumbled right now. But with that,
Happens is
yeah, Mike, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thanks, Josh. Likewise, I'm excited to talk to you and the audience.
All right, so why don't you kick us off, man? I was reading some of the stuff on your LinkedIn and want to get an idea for who you are and what you do on a day to day basis.
Yeah, sure. Easy question, right? Who am
Sure.
I? So background, I was born and raised in Texas in the Fort Worth area. Kind of went down the normal path, or the quote unquote, U.S. normal path of going to high school, going to college, getting out of college, not knowing what the heck I wanted to do, just letting different opportunities take me up the corporate ladder is the way it worked out. Heavy operations and supply chain background, really for 25 years, Fortune 500 companies. Um, Got to travel around the world through all of that. Married, divorced, remarried, have a couple of kids that are ideally and hopefully young adults that are stable and happy and functional in life. That was a little bit my goal there. But yeah, for me, the big turning point in my life story was in the early 2000s, right around 2006, 2007. Got divorced, had an opportunity to go overseas, work in Eastern European country. I met my now wife there, came back, and we, took adversity in both of us kind of finding ourselves out of work right around 2016, and we took that opportunity to step back, reflect, think about what we wanted to do out of life. And it's at that moment that we decided to get more entrepreneurial in our world. And real estate was where we chose to focus those efforts. And so, fast forward, it's been 5 or 6 years. I consider ourselves successful repeat entrepreneurs. We are manifesting our best life. We just moved to kind of our dream home in the mountains of Colorado. We get to work from home here at about 10,000 feet elevation, and we've got deer and turkey and fox that just roam around the property, and able to do it through real estate. A lot of passive investing. We got on the active side of things, and just started to leverage all of that, and we're looking to continue it. We love it. It's just been a passion. So that's nutshell story. We can dive into any or all of that more here on the show, but that's kind of the high level.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing. You said you were hit with some adversity, right? Like you
Yeah.
found yourselves out of work and you had a heavy background in corporate America, supply and operations. And then divorce and then at one point, finding yourself jobless. Like
Mhm.
what was going through the mindset of where you were at as you're looking? Because behind every deal maker, there's a deal maker story and journey,
Yeah.
which helps them then create value for other people. So what was going through your head, your heart, your brain as you were living through that?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that is, like I said, a pivotal moment, or a couple of them spread out over a little bit of time, but at least in 2016. So I was with Microsoft at the time, working supply chain for the Americas, and just I had outsourced the majority of the work that I was responsible for, and so just had less and less direct staff management. I was living in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Microsoft's headquartered in Washington and the Seattle area. Really, any upward mobility opportunities were going to come with a relocation and working out of corporate office. This was pre-COVID, so
Yeah.
it was still office time. And so anyway, uh, expressed the fact that I didn't really want to do that, and if there were opportunities, to get out with a buyout, that I would take that. And so there was a layoff that happened in 2016, and found myself on the list. And so at the same time, my wife was working for a healthcare company in the Plano, Texas area, and they decided to consolidate all of their operations at their headquarters in Northwest Arkansas. And so, she found herself out of a job, as we were not going to relocate to to Northwest Arkansas. So yeah, I mean, in that very moment, a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety, a lot of we have a big mortgage to pay, we have daughters that are approaching college age, just all of these bills. And so my immediate reaction was to work my network, put my resume out there. I had interviews with the likes of Apple, Amazon, Tesla, some of the big names in tech, and I was just really, okay. So already when you're interviewing, at least for me, there's an anxiety there. I mean, there's an apprehension of being judged. Am I going to get a job? Am I going to get a good job? Whatever. But on top of that was really just a deep, um, unsettled feeling in my gut that it just really wasn't what I wanted out of life and what I wanted to do. I mean, I was already traveling a couple of weeks every month. Company culture was rough, like just, drive, what have you done for me lately? It just did not feel fulfilling. And so, in that moment, have a wonderfully supportive wife who, believes we can do anything and everything together. And she believes in me. And just all of that came together and allowed us to really step back and think about, what do we want out of life? What's our overriding purpose? What are our values? And let that guide us into, where did we want to go in this next chapter of our lives? Fortunately, we had some money in the bank. I had college largely taken care of for my girls, so I didn't really worry about that. We were empty nesting, and so that's another advantage that we had in being able to take what we considered a bigger risk in starting, something on our own. We had a lot of factors there, but most importantly, we took the opportunity to actually listen to those and do something with those. And so, you know, that led us into real estate. We had already been exploring a little bit of, um, let's say, cash flow in general. I think I had recently reread Robert Kiyosaki's, Rich Dad Poor Dad, started the mind thinking more and more about cash flowing businesses, getting onto that business slash investing side of his quadrant. And so those seeds were already replanted. Let's say I had done some research and study, decade before, but just really hadn't taken the opportunity to leverage any of it. And so that really, all taken together, we took that moment to listen and to really take those steps into starting a business and doing it in real estate.
Yeah. What did the first one look like? Because you guys were, applying for jobs. Both kind of were you both jobless at the same time?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy moly! All right, so that doesn't add a level of stress at the dinner table, does
Well,
it?
I think in a normal circumstance, it doesn't. And even that thought, you start to think about, if I had cash flowing investments, then your runway is a lot longer than if you're working a W-2 job and all of a sudden the spigot turns off and it's just whatever you have in front of you is what you're able to burn. And so that was another motivator that, there's a better way to earn, to have your money working for you rather than, you spending time in an office working for money. And so those kind of things we took all as motivators to find a different path. The question for us was, can we get there in enough time before, we have to get a job or we have to start bringing in some revenue there. And I talked to my girls are 26 and 22, about to be 3. So they're also at that formative place in life where they're trying to make some big decisions. And um, it's hard when you're young, but there are, especially in today's day and age, there are so many ways to make money to live. I mean, you don't have to go sit in a cubicle and work in a job that doesn't fulfill you largely. There's just so many opportunities out there. Not that there wasn't a time before, but I think with the digital space and gig economy and remote work and all of that, there's just really seems to be so much opportunity make things work and do it in a way that fulfills you personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was going to college, I grew up on a construction site swinging hammers with my dad,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
his advice for me was get your bachelor's degree, right? Get your degree, then you can have
Hmm.
any job you want,
Right.
right? And then I got a job in corporate America, and then I worked with the government for a little bit, and I experienced these kind of things. And I was like, man, I'm not cut out to work in this. And super entrepreneurial at heart, so it
Mm.
was just like this nasty pull, a
Yeah.
fight of showing up every day, clocking in and out for something that didn't feel fulfilled and like a purpose.
Right.
Um, so it seems as though when you encourage your daughters or even clients, looking at the website and such, it's
Hmm.
like create these opportunities for cash flowing things because it gives you options, and then you're not married to, tied down to, handcuffed to any one particular opportunity. Is that right?
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so we started our real estate venture really in vacant land. It was a more approachable way to start a business. The cost of entry was lower, and we did a lot of owner financing on reselling properties to people. And then, a few years back, we scaled into multifamily, and we had looked at a few different asset classes, storage units, mobile home parks, multifamily, and it was really out of a desire to diversify our business, but also to invest in depreciable assets that could help us with our tax bill and really reduce our liability there, so we could keep more money in our pockets rather than paying out in taxes. And we largely chose multifamily because of the opportunities to give back. And so, for one, and we do a lot of value add type investing where we will buy a distressed or a property that really hasn't been given the attention that it needs, so that we can go in, renovate, bring it up to market or better than market standards. And so in doing so, right, you improve the living conditions of a tenant base. They really appreciate you coming in and taking care of the amenities and doing some renovations and things like that. And it's super rewarding. But then also, we get to help out people that were like us or that are just looking for something different. And the opportunities to generate regular cash flow, to get a good return at a refinance event or a sale at the end of a syndication is really rewarding. And it allows people that opportunity. And we have several clients, that have just thanked us for the opportunity, especially now that the stock market is so crazy
Mm-hmm.
that it enables you extra degrees of freedom to make different choices with your life, so that like us, you weren't married to a W-2, and then all of a sudden, what once was and I assume this is similar to when you got out of college, but like what once seemed like a safe career path and choice is not really safe at all. I mean, you're at the mercy of whoever is making decisions above you. And so, more and more, my grandfathers both worked for large companies their whole lives, retired with a pension, and that was it. That just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen anymore. So you really have to be a lot more thoughtful, I think, about your career and your investments and what you're doing with your money. And it allows you, like I said, that degree of freedom to make other choices, whether you want to start a side business, a different business, keep working and enjoy build up the cash flow. But yeah, that's the most rewarding aspect of what we do, and it's a large part of why we do what we do.
Yeah, super cool. So you got your start. You're applying for these jobs, and you're like, wifey, I think maybe we should just start our own.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you went on this search. What did the search look for? Because you said in real estate, you looked at self storage, you looked at multifamily. Ultimately, you got your start in land, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you looked at these different asset class in commercial real estate. On the flip side, like what other opportunities did you explore before saying real estate's the one?
Yeah, so outside of just applying for different jobs and corporate jobs, a little bit before I was let go from my job, so let's say 6 to 8 months before, we had started looking at side hustle opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of listening to podcasts and understanding, hey, what are other people doing? What things sound attractive and appealing? And I, through that process, I heard two different um, guests on podcast talk about buying and selling vacant land. And so I just started doing a little research on the side, and I purchased a starter pack. He calls it a toolkit, but just to see what it was all about. And it came U.S. mail, a bunch of binders with materials, and then like DVDs that you could listen to, and so um, being fully employed, that came, and it pretty much just went right to the side of my desk and started collecting dust, because I didn't really have time to dive into it. Okay, maybe I looked at the first couple of modules and then thought, oh, this is going to be a lot of time and work and all that. And so that ultimately, our search wasn't too long when these events happened, because we already had this kind of teed up, and it was something that we had talked about a few times. Hey, let's start this, let's do this. We just had never pulled the trigger. And so once we started talking about different ideas, we just said, we really ought to give this, let's go all in. And so we decided to start with that, and we allocated a budget. We said, here's some seed capital that we're going to use to start our business. We decided to get a mentor and a coach, and we said, if this is going to be our full-time business, let's go, and get the help that we think we need and accelerate our growth through that. And so, it's a formula that really worked for us. We gave ourselves a year to get a business going and underneath us, and I think it took us about 6 months to get our first sale. And it was a lot of tenacity and pushing through all of that, and a lot of doubt, like, is this going to work or not?
Yeah.
But once that first breakthrough happened, things started accelerating. And then we were still eating savings at the time, but then our next goal was to get to black, such that we were actually paying bills and ideally putting a little bit away and back into our business. And so, we just set a series of goals, and we stepped up into it. And, lo and behold, and we ran it like a business, right? We took a lot of responsibility, and we put metrics in place, and we disciplined ourselves to get up and go to the office and work, and um, check back, make sure things are working as they should be, and if not, course correct, and do all the things that normal businesses do, and there are at least successful ones do. So we tried to emulate that, and I leaned a lot on my operations background, just probably a little bit of overkill in some regards, but it helped us do that. So as far as our search goes, in terms of different business ideas, we really didn't explore a whole lot of variety at that time. We decided to pull the trigger and just go with what was in front of us. We had already heard about success stories and seen that this is working for other people. There's no reason that we couldn't do it. We're both pretty capable people, so we had a lot of confidence that we could scale up and get something done.
Super cool. You mentioned a book, Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks about the rat race, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's when your passive income exceeds your basic needs. Is when that happens, you are free, right? You could step off
Right.
the rat race or the treadmill, and
Yeah.
you could go. And you mentioned that you guys started active real estate, then you got involved in some passive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you in terms of the rat race, or has your passive overcome any of your active expenses, or where are you guys at in the world today?
Um, yeah, we're a pretty good mix. I mean, we're very active, and we want to be active. We enjoy having a business purpose, and as I mentioned, our purpose is largely driven by helping others. And so, through that, we enjoy finding deals and pulling together investors, and really running successful deals. So our land business is we started out just 100%. We were we were we wore all the hats. We were the
Mhm.
owners, we were the workers, and we created a new job for ourselves essentially. And so, over the years, we have, to be honest, ebbed and flowed in that regard. So we have hired assistants and a team to help us do some of it. And then there's been moments where, whether through turnover or just life events or whatever, we've kind of gotten sucked back into the day to day. I would say that business today for us is, it's probably a 50-50 type endeavor. We spend maybe 20 hours a week combined just doing things. My wife essentially runs most of that business today. And that's a very, it's a very active pursuit in that there's not really a way to invest passively in it. It's essentially buying and selling properties. Now,
Mhm.
we can and do make it more passive in that we hire a team. And so we're not actively, hands on in there. Once we got into multifamily, our journey was structured in such a way that the first few deals we joined were passive. I mean, we had some retirement accounts and a little bit of liquidity that we joined in on the passive side of things, really to get the experience mostly and just
Mhm.
understand the language, the nature of an investment, how are the communications working, and those kind of processes within the multifamily investment space. And then we just continued to step deeper into an active role. So we joined a couple of investment opportunities where we didn't do a whole lot for the deal, but we helped raise a little bit of equity. We helped with earnest money. We did a little bit of investor communications, but it gave us so much more of an in-depth look behind the scenes of what happens. And you come to an appreciation of what makes deals successful, what makes them stumble, what we wanted to see as investors, what we were able to provide to people. And so um, now we primarily um, find and source deals and run those deals, as well as bring investors in. But it's more of an end-to-end view, and that journey has helped us craft, what kind of a leader do I want to be in a multifamily syndication? How do I want to communicate with my own general partners? How do I want to communicate with the passive investors or limited partners? Levels of transparency and all those things that we tried to take the best of the best of our experience, as well as some of the things that we didn't want to do that we had been a part of in other deals. And so we are, I would say, probably 80 to 90% on the active side of things, although we do have a few passive investments. The goal is, I don't at this point in my life, I don't think I ever want to get away from some level of active participation. I would like to be more of a business owner where, maybe I have 3, 4, 5 businesses and it's more steering and coaching and doing things like that. Today I spend a lot of time pretty hands on. I'm meeting with brokers. I'm meeting with property managers. Looking at underwriting at a very in-depth level, um, asset managing, going to properties and assessing progress and how are things working. I still do a lot of the investor communications myself, so I'm very hands-on, in our endeavors. And the goal over the next 5 years or so is to bring on other people to help with the communications aspect of things, the marketing that goes into attracting investors and things like that. And there's obviously uh, we enjoy it a lot. And so I enjoy networking with brokers and property managers and going on podcasts like this and doing all those sorts of things. And so it's kind of easy right now. And I like to think I still have some youth on my side, even though I'm gray, more and more gray every day. But I'm a firm believer in that an active mind is one of the keys to longevity, and I really just love staying sharp in a business perspective. I like it a lot. I do a lot of things on the personal side in terms of fitness and hobbies and different things like that. But I do think staying involved in business helps people just stay sharp as they age.
Yeah. You mentioned, getting your start in raw land deals, right?
Mhm.
So let's just say I'm getting my start. I'm working at a corporation, got some money in the piggy bank, and I'm starting to go. Either I'm coming up for retirement soon, or man, I really got to get away from this crazy boss, right? And I start looking. I say, let's just say I choose raw land. I got 20 hours a week to devote to this, and I want to go raw land deals.
Mhm.
Talk to us about the mechanics of making raw land deals work as a real estate investor.
Sure. Yeah, it's an interesting business model. So it's a little bit like flipping houses to some degree. And so the way we do it is we first, as with most real estate, you look at the market. Where is there a good market to play in? And with raw land, there are certain factors that make certain areas more attractive than others.
Hmm.
But that can also largely be dependent to your situation. Some areas of the country or even submarkets are super expensive, right? You go into Dallas Fort Worth or Los Angeles or someplace. I mean,
Hmm.
it's going to be hard to pick up properties. There's other areas like West Texas where there's just thousands and thousands of acres of dirt, and you can buy things a little more on the cheap. And so we do a little market research and figure out where we want to play. Then everybody that owns property in the world pays taxes on the property. And so the government agencies have a list of all of those people, and you're able to tap into that in various ways. There's the county directly that has a tax roll that you
Hmm.
can piggyback off of. There are services that you can pay for them to do the work for you, to provide you with a list filtered however you want to look at it. I want to find properties that are assessed between $5,000 and $25,000 or more, or some counties are better than other. They'll tell you if there's waterfront property or if there's how is it zoned, different elements. And so essentially we come back with a list of names of property owners, and we will directly outreach to them. And there's various ways you can do it. Some people send a postcard, some people send, and I'm sure most of us have gotten either those mailers or those calls or something if somebody wants to buy your property
Hmm.
or things like that. But we do that. So we're out there reaching out to people and saying, we usually put an offer in hand. We'll say we'll give you $5,000 for this piece of property, and we'll give them a few ways to contact us. And so there's at a high level, the business model is buying land cheap and selling land more than you bought it for. And then within there's different ways to do it. And so then once we find um, people that are willing to sell the property and we get it in our hand, then it's really just about marketing it and getting it out. There's all different kinds of channels as there are for homes. There's Zillows and there's Facebook Marketplace, all kinds of digital ways to put land out there. And then a lot of what we will do and how this helps become more along the lines of the passive income business model is we owner finance the property that we sell. Probably 90% of what we sell will owner finance. So we'll offer $99 a month or $250 a month for 5 years. And so we'll put together a contract and a promissory note with someone that wants to buy a piece of property, let them pay it off over 3, 4, 5 years. So then, once the upfront work is done, then it's just about maintaining the account, collecting the income, and then um, once the way our business model works, we maintain ownership of the property until the note's completely paid off, and then we'll transfer. Just because if you're talking about a $1,000 or $5,000 piece of land, the process of trying to repossess that really eats away a lot of the margin. So we do it in that way. But there's various ways to do it. If any of the listeners are familiar with other real estate business models, well, in the land space, it's very similar. You have probably no shortage of people out there that will sell you a coaching program or tell you different business models of how to do it. They have mentorships, masterminds, all different ways. In fact, when we get a little deeper into the show, we have a landing page on our website where anybody can go, and we have a primer on land investing. If you want to get started in land investing, we have a few websites you can go to, some people that offer coaching packages. We went through a gentleman by the name of Mark Podolsky. He calls himself the Land Geek. So I'll give a shout out. I'll give a shout out to Mark. He really helped us get up and running, and provided us great mentorship and coaching and all of that. So anyway, I have a document that we put together that the people can go and download and get a little primer on it, just if you're land curious, as I'll say.
Yeah. So you started in this, and you would buy a piece of land, and then someone would kind of like lease to own, right? Rent to
Mm-hmm,
own
mm-hmm,
kind of model. Um, what kind of clientele? Like, give an idea for an avatar of someone who'd go, listen, I like the piece of land. I'd just rather pay you, monthly on it until it's paid off or whatever. Am I
mm-hmm.
starting to build on it? Am I putting, a RV or a mobile home on it? What does that look like typically?
Yeah, so a lot of that is first and foremost county dependent. So some
Okay.
counties will allow, they have different restrictions. We will usually not allow any hard development. So if you're going to build on it, house or something like that, until it's paid off. We have, on occasion, we have a rider to our contract where we will do it, but it's pretty restrictive in terms of,
Hmm.
having to have certain levels of insurance requirements, different things like that. It's just kind of risky if we're the owner and someone else is doing work on a property and they get hurt, or
Hmm.
they start a fire, or something happens. We're ultimately liable for it, and it's our business at risk. And so we try to avoid any of that type of stuff. But in terms of camping, mobile homes, campers, different things like that. I mean, yeah, we don't mind at all. I mean, it's pretty much yours, and in our contract, it's written in such a way that it is yours to use as long as you're following the rules and regulations of the county. It's essentially yours. You're just paying on a note. With the exception of going that step of actually building a structure on it.
Got it.
It's permanent.
So as you guys are managing this, you guys are acting like the bank, right? So you acquire these
Mm-hmm.
properties. Give us an idea of what a typical land deal might look like. As you've been doing it for about 7 years now, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Give us, if you kind of compile them all together in like an average, give us an idea of what an average land deal would look like in terms of like how much you bought it for, what kind of monthly reoccurring revenue does it produce, and then maybe on the flip side is you take it back and then flip it. Give us an idea of like best case scenario.
Sure. The land business is awesome. So we have purchased, we've gotten properties for free. People that just, if you'll go through the process of getting it out from under us, we'll give it to you.
Wow.
We've bought properties for, hundreds of dollars. We've bought properties for tens of thousands of dollars. After we spent a little bit of time in the business and understood the process involved from end to end, we honed in on um, the fact that the majority of people will typically spend around a car payment type of monthly payment. And so we try to keep our properties priced around 250 a month or so. And the logic there was really for a few reasons. One, the amount of work that goes into setting up all of that, to buying it, marketing it, selling it, putting the contract together, and getting everything done is the same regardless of what you're doing. And so to do, we've done some where we've sold for $50 a month or $99 a month, and it's a lot of work for the payback.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is there's not a whole lot of people that can afford to pay $1,000 a month or more on a note. And so they're out there, but it just takes longer to cultivate and to get that. And so we kind of honed in on this sweet spot. And so that's where we try to keep our payment. Where we also try to target is to get our money back in less than a year. And so that, hones us into properties that we can buy for $2,000 to $4,000, let's call it. And that's some combination of a down payment, which, sometimes people are willing to pay $1,000 down or something to get started. But we try to recoup our cost in less than a year. And then everything after that is just pure profit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we do is, let's say, a few of the areas where we frequent in terms of buying and selling properties, we can pick up a property for, let's just say, $5,000.
Hmm.
Well, we can then sell that for $25,000 to $30,000 on the market. And so, you know, our ROI on land is triple digits per year, easy. And so, after we get that money back within 8 to 12 months, there's just great. And as they say in real estate, you make the money on the buy.
Yeah.
And so, we're out there and um, we're not super picky about it, but we definitely that we have a ceiling on the offers where we go, but we know, beyond a certain amount, it's just not as profitable. Now, there are some markets where we'll squeeze our margins and we'll just agree to buy properties more expensively, knowing that we'll make less margin. But I mean, we're talking 150, 200% annual return. And so there's a lot of room to play in there. Um, and so but that's typically, lately, that's what our business model has looked like. We'll pick up a property for $4,000 or $5,000, and then we'll be able to sell it for, I don't know, 20-ish thousand. And usually that's paid out over 4 or 5 years. Just really depends on the person. But like I said, we try to put a target out there of around $250 to $300 on a monthly payment. And then, some form of a down payment, which we can adjust over time. But it just, as with anything, it's a little market dependent. There are some markets where people are willing to pay a little more. There's other markets where there's just not as many buyers. But I can say, in this business, we've bought all kinds of properties and we've sold them all for a profit. I mean, so it's just, it's been a great business and a business model to get into, and really has created a lot of wealth for us. So
Super cool, man. Good job
yeah.
putting that together.
Thanks. We had a lot of help out, and it wasn't my invention, but it's certainly, I mean, but I do know a lot of people that start and don't see it through.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dabblers, as there is with any endeavor. And so, I do give us credit for being in this for the long haul and making a long-term business out of it. And it has largely contributed to enabling a lifestyle that we have today.
Yeah. So as you're getting this, you see some people succeed in real estate and you see some people kind of dwindle out. You say, I dabbled with it, right?
Yeah.
And you come at it from a operational, goal driven, right? Metric driven
Mhm.
approach. It sounds like that's kind of your superpower. What's
It
your
is it is a strength for sure.
Yeah. What's the wife's superpower? This is a chance to get some brownie points with wifey.
Yeah. She has a lot. As I mentioned earlier, first and foremost, she's a super positive, supportive person. I've had uh, the pleasure or displeasure of having two wives now, and I have different perspectives, but it's amazing what having that support can give you.
Yeah.
In the world of business, she's a doer. She latches onto tasks and objectives and goals and gets them done. I'm a bit more of a visionary. I will think about things. I strategize. I enjoy getting into the details of some areas. If we're looking at process flows, how are things working? Where can we tweak to make things happen? But on a day-to-day basis, task to task, she compliments me in that way tremendously. So it's great to have somebody that can help you execute your vision.
Awesome. In the years of your deal making, you and your wife are out there in real estate investing and putting deals together, building businesses. Best deal, worst deal.
Best deal. So we put an offer out on a property in northern Colorado. We mailed to a, I don't know, let's say 250 property owners. We had a guy respond, um, and he said uh, something to the effect of, he sent us an email back and he said, "You guys got this property totally wrong. I have property in a different county. It was in Colorado, but my property's over here, and I am looking to sell it. And it's a riverfront property on a fly fishing river that flows through southern Colorado. And he was disgruntled with the HOA that he was in, and just wanted a tax write-off. And so he said, I will basically give it to you for a few $100s. He owed a little bit of HOA dues, I think, on it. And so we further got him down. We just highlighted it to him and he said, I'll net it out the price. But these were hundreds of thousands of dollar lots in this gated HOA community riverfront. And so, for a few $100s, we picked up this riverfront property, and we were able to even sell it at a discount to what other people were selling it, just because we didn't want to sit on it for too long. But we sold it for 5 figures, and just made a huge return. Somebody paid cash. They wanted to build a second home out there on the river,
Yeah.
and do things. So it was amazing. I have a hard time thinking about a worse deal in the land business. Just as I mentioned, we have sold everything, and fairly quickly. So they're it's really hard to find a bad deal
Okay.
in land. I know people who've bought properties that maybe have environmental issues or something like that. We haven't bumped into anything like that. But yeah, I mean, there's a saying that one of the guys in our business likes to say, there's a pig for every barn. And so, it just doesn't matter if it's a piece of red Texas dirt or mountainous or whatever. But yeah, it's
Do you guys stick within a geographic region, or are you nationwide in terms of your acquisitions?
um we are not nationwide. We're not nationwide because we don't want to be nationwide. We just focus. We focus in on a few areas at a time, and then we continually, every month or two, look to expand our reach a little bit. So,
Okay.
um, some of the counties that we're in, there are tens of thousands of landowners, and so you can really. And what we found also is, if you just stay in, a lot of times people aren't ready to sell today, but a year down the road, they are. And if they've seen your name a few times, then they're gonna give you the nod, kind of a thing. So we try to go deep in a few counties, and then we explore other markets just to look for other good opportunities. And sometimes we just say, this isn't working very good, but we just try to keep it fresh over time. But I would say, more likely our business model is to fewer markets with depth.
Okay. Got it. So then you moved into looking at other types of assets, right? You were looking at self storage and
Mm-hmm.
all these things, mobile homes, and then you said multifamily based on for taxes, because when you're flipping land or something like that, there might be some huge tax windfalls that come your way.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, you were looking at tax incentives, and you said multifamilies for us. Give us an idea from when you got your start and saying that's where we're going to put our flag to now. What kind of volume, what kind of milestones, what have you guys accomplished in multifamily investing from when
Sure.
you started to now?
Yeah. So when we had a hard time, or I had a hard time deciding which asset class to go into.
Hmm.
There really wasn't a clear delineation that said this is the best. And I'm a person who can go deep into analysis and get analysis
Yeah, yeah,
paralysis a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. And so at some point I just said, look, let's just go multifamily. And so we started, I believe it was in January, we kind of took this decision and said, let's explore multifamily. And so we took about 6 months to do our due diligence in the industry. We started looking at, and we wanted to follow a similar business model. We said, let's get a mentor group or a coach. Let's accelerate our learning. And when you think about doing multifamily deals, or at least the way we were thinking to do them, which is 100 unit plus, you're in the millions, if not tens of millions of dollars on a purchase, an acquisition. And so the cost of making a mistake can be huge, and so we knew for sure that we wanted to get a coach. And so we started exploring what are the different programs out there. We attended a few boot camps, weekend seminars, trying to network and figure out which one we felt would be best for us. And we settled in on a group called Think Multifamily. It's out of Dallas Fort Worth, and it's more of a smaller boutique multifamily. And so you work directly with the founder of the group. He's your coach. He partners on
Mm-hmm.
deals. Um, some groups were very restrictive in terms of, when you start, you can only do deals as a passive investor. And then, if you have a deal, you have to bring it to me or other things. This group has a lot more flexibility. And so for various reasons, we chose to go with that group. And that process took 5 or 6 months before we kind of found and said, okay, this is the one for us. And then, as I mentioned, for us, our journey was about building out that network, doing a lot of education and research into what makes deals successful. How do you find, good markets?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to find partners that we wanted to enter into deals with. And I would say it took us another 3 months to start investing as passive investors with different people.
So 5 months
Just
to go through the program, and then an additional like 3 months to kind of go, okay, we're in financially.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
cool.
would say by
Okay.
the fall of that year, we passively invested in a couple of deals, and one of those passive investments then, parlayed into working on the general partnership on another deal with some people that we had invested passively in.
Cool.
And so we have now. It's been 2.5 years that we've been in the multifamily business. We have partnered in right around 1,500 units, and that equates to it's six partnership deals. Some of those deals have multiple properties within them, right? So one syndication may buy two adjacent properties
Mm.
or a couple of deals. So there's 150 to 200 units on average across those deals. I think one of our deals has 360 units as one investment. Some have 100. And so, that's what it looks like today. I would say we entered in, we landed our first deal as a lead sponsor, or one that we brought to the table. We won the offer last summer, and then we closed on it in November. So I think we got our LOI accepted in July-ish or something, and it took about 90 days to close in November. Closing on another one right now in Fort Worth. We have a great property, so that's hometown for me. I was excited to get a deal there. So that'll close here in the next 60 days, let's say. And then, as we were talking about before the show, I mean, it feels like the deal flow has accelerated throughout COVID and continuing to this moment. Now, I will say, here's where the advantage of good networks come into play, because we are still active in the market. I have brokers reaching out to me on a near daily basis about deals, because their buying pool has shrunk tremendously with the uncertainty in the market right now. So just lending terms are vacillating a bit. The lenders are cautious in what kind of terms they're giving, and so I think it spooked a lot of the potential buyers out there, and for the properties that are out. Um, Whereas it was hard to get the time of day of brokers for some period of time. We're finding now that they're actively and personally shopping their deals to people. They'll call me up and say, "Hey, I've got a deal over here. I think it fits your model. You ought to give it a look." Those kind of things. And so it is a good time to be in the market. However, it's a risky time, and so you have to be very cautious about um, how are you underwriting a deal? What are your assumptions going into this versus where the market may or may not go. So we're really taking our time to do some in-depth underwriting. I'm hearing more and more properties are trading at a discount versus the asking price. They're retrading within the contract period when lending terms come in, and so it's just there's a lot going on right now. But
Yeah. So as we're looking at the market and the uncertainty, right? More and more deals are coming your way, so more opportunities are coming your way. When it
mhm.
comes to the coaching programs you're going through and being connected in the industry, what are you hearing the leaders of industry and the people who have gone through multiple market cycles?
Mhm.
What are you hearing from them in terms of future deal flow and where to invest and what to invest in?
In terms of asset classes to
Sure.
invest in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting. I there's a lot of there are a lot of people out there, in my opinion, that really try to capitalize on the fear in the markets, and that's almost um, irrelevant of what market cycle you're in. Somebody's tapping into that.
Hmm.
And so right now, obviously, we have inflation,
Yeah.
and everybody wants to be talking about inflation and inflation. While it is a fact that it's here and it's a presence, there's not a whole lot that you and I are going to do about it unless enough of us decide to stop buying things. We can force inflation to go down, but I remember when COVID hit a couple of years ago. Um, the group I'm in and the leader of it, Mark Kinney, who started the group,
Hmm.
he is quick to say no one knows what's going to happen in the future, right? I mean, everybody has a prediction, but no one knows, and so it's really up to us just to do a good analysis in our underwriting, make sure we're using good conservative assumptions, and we're going to stay in the market. And we continued to buy throughout COVID. And I think it's fair to say an overwhelming majority of people thought that there was going to be a crash. It's going to be another 2008, 2010 market cycle where we're going to be picking up properties on the cheap. Well, that didn't happen. Properties kept accelerating in price, cap rates compressing. And it's where we are today. And so it's easy to step back and think, okay, well, next year for sure the market's going to crash, and cap rates are going to go down, and prices will relax. But we just don't know. And so we enter into solid businesses and business plans on our value add deals. I do think I personally think uh, I see a lot of people underwriting deals maybe not using the exact same assumptions that we've gone through in the last couple of years with double digit rent increases and those kind of things. But I think it's really irrational to think that any level of that can continue. I mean, people are not, they can't pay rents today hardly, and so to think that rents are going to continue to go up double digits across asset classes, at least things are going to flatten out. I still think multifamily is a wonderful investment asset class just because of the housing shortage, the widening and continuing to widen gap between house prices versus
Hmm.
what people can afford. And so the rental market is going to continue to thrive. Now, it's arguable if there's any one particular, I know there's a lot of build to rent solutions going on right now, and conversions and things like that. But I think multifamily is a good safe space to be in. Um, we will have to see in terms of, within multifamily, you have A, B, C, and D class properties.
Hmm.
One of the core principles that we hold to is it's nice to be in the BC space, just because if people on the luxury side start to get squeezed, they might step down into a B. And then ideally, if people and their income situation continues to lift, they can step up into
Hmm.
a C or B. And so I think it's good to not play on the fringes. However, the wealth gap continues to widen, and so people at the upper end of the income continue to do well. I do think, uh, well, I don't know that I think. I mean, it's just inevitable that our market behaves in cyclical fashion, and um, we are at an above average time frame from what the average cycle goes up and down. And so I do think we're due similar to the stock market. Study after study shows that people who try to time the market get the worst returns because you can't time the market. And so I think you just have to keep playing, and you take your, you take your base hits and your doubles, and you keep going, and then you get an occasional miss and an occasional home run. So I'm still bullish on multifamily. I think storage is probably a good safe space. When you look back historically, both storage and multifamily as asset classes have performed well in recessionary time periods. And so I think those are good safe havens. I am not in the stock market currently. I got out a few years back, and I don't know that I'll go back. I just don't. It's a little too turbulent. Um, I do think it will hit the hardest if and when something severe happens. But it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I am. I am cautious in that there are so many, let's say, downward forces on us in terms of geopolitical war going on in Russia, Ukraine. We've got China coming on as a strong competitor economically, potentially militarily. And then within our own country, there's just heightening tensions, inflation, people saying recession, stagflation. There's just there's a lot of warning signs out there. But at the same time, I don't think you want to get caught on the sidelines. I think with inflation and different things there, you want to invest in good, safe assets that make it through recessions, if not thrive through those time periods. So I'm going to stay in real estate. I think it's historically, when I look back, it's proven that it's pretty resilient. You have to know your markets. You have to diversify as best you can, and hedge against certain things. But it's I think all in all, it'll be good. And just take steps to protect yourself.
Super cool, man. So let's do this, Mike. As people are listening in and they want to connect with you, learn more about your views of where the market's going, maybe even participate in some of the deals with you, or learn from your background in land and in multifamily, what's a good place for people to connect and do a deal with you?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, it's kind of like I said, it's what we're about, helping as many people as we can do just that. And so, and whether that's through actual investing with us, or resources that we can make available, education, and or just talking things over. We have put together on our website, which is DeatonEquityPartners.com, a landing page. So if you go to DeatonEquityPartners.com/freedom, we tried to make that a one-stop shop. So I have my contact information, my email, social handles. There's a couple of publications that you can download. One's focused on land if you're interested in maybe how to get started at a really high level. Similarly, on multifamily, we've got a primer on the benefits of multifamily and things there, as well as if you want to sign up for our newsletter, if you want to join our investing group, things like that. It's really just one-stop shop that anybody can go to. Otherwise, you can hit me on LinkedIn. It's just I'm active there. We have a company page as well. That's probably the best source for me. I'm not super active on TikTok or any of those. I'm probably more than I should be, but not TikTok, but the others, Instagram, Facebook, things like that.
Yeah, got it. What's a question I should have asked you during this interview that I completely screwed up and did not ask?
Oh my God, there's so many.
So many screw ups, Josh. You should have asked me all these
Yeah.
questions. Boy, pick one.
Um, I would say really, let me think about how to phrase this in a question, but the most important thing that investors can and should look for
Okay, go
in a,
for it.
in a deal. And this is, I come from it from a multifamily perspective, but for me, in our journey, we've been in a lot of good deals, and we have been in some, I would say one that just really hasn't worked out the way it should be. And for me, it all boils down to understanding who is the team behind your investment, in particular the lead sponsors. And so I tell so many people, take the time to get to know who is running your deal and their background and their track record, because any deal can look fantastic on paper, but if you don't have a team that's going to execute it, it's not going to materialize. And it depending on the deal, one mistake or what can seem like an innocuous mistake can really unravel a deal. Whether it's not getting units turned in a fast amount of time, not being able to drive a property management company to hit the metrics that they need to hit to make a deal successful. And so, there's several things that you really need a responsible and experienced team driving. And so, more so than the business case, I would say just get to know the people behind your deals, because they are going to make or break it.
Super cool. All right. So, what we'll do, fellow deal makers out in the audience listening in, if what Mike's saying resonates with you, all his contact information will be in the show notes below. So, you can connect directly with him. Say, hey, I heard you on the Deal Scout. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. And we want to find a way to do a deal. Now, if you are looking at a deal, working on a deal, or want some help with a deal, you could always head over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. See you guys.